What happens when a brotherhood forged in blood and violence gets shattered by betrayal, only to have one brother reach out from the shadows with a message that could either save or destroy everything? 3 words changed the entire landscape of WWE forever: Shield Brother Protection. But this wasn't about friendship. This was about something far more dangerous. Jon Moxley, the man who walked away from everything, just broke his silence after Roman Reigns' brutal destruction, and what he said will send shockwaves through the wrestling world. If you think you know where this story is heading, you're about to discover that some bonds run deeper than hatred, and some messages carry the weight of war itself. The WWE Universe has been thrown into absolute chaos following the most emotionally explosive moment in recent memory. Roman Reigns, the once untouchable tribal chief who ruled with an iron fist, has been reduced to nothing more than blood, silence, and shattered dreams. Seth Rollins, backed by the manipulative genius of Paul Heyman, orchestrated a brutal annihilation that left Roman broken and humiliated in front of millions. His bloodline empire has crumbled, his allies have vanished, and dangerous predators like Brock Lesnar and CM Punk are circling like vultures. But just when it seemed like Roman had no one left in his corner, the unthinkable happened. Jon Moxley, the rebel, the defector, the man who carved his own path away from WWE, emerged from the shadows with a message that nobody saw coming. This wasn't just another wrestling storyline. This was personal. This was about brotherhood, betrayal, and the kind of loyalty that transcends time, distance, and even hatred itself. Today, we're breaking down every word of Moxley's haunting message, analyzing what it means for the future of WWE, and exploring whether we're witnessing the beginning of an unexpected alliance or the opening move in the most personal war the company has ever seen. To understand the magnitude of Moxley's message, we need to fully grasp just how far Roman Reigns has fallen from grace. This isn't just about losing a match or suffering a temporary setback. This is about the complete and systematic destruction of everything Roman built over the past several years. The man who once stood as the undisputed head of the table, who commanded respect through fear and intimidation, has been reduced to a broken shell of his former self. Roman's downfall began with cracks in his seemingly impenetrable bloodline faction. The very family members he trusted most started showing signs of doubt, rebellion, and ultimately betrayal. Solo Sikoa's growing independence, the Usos' conflicted loyalties, and the gradual erosion of respect within his own ranks created vulnerabilities that his enemies were quick to exploit. But the most devastating blow came from the one person Roman never saw coming: Paul Heyman, his most trusted advisor and the architect of his tribal chief persona. Heyman's betrayal wasn't just a simple turn, it was a masterclass in psychological warfare. The man who helped Roman craft his image as the head of the table, who stood by his side through countless battles, who whispered strategies in his ear during the darkest moments, that same man orchestrated Roman's destruction with surgical precision. Heyman didn't just abandon Roman, he actively worked to dismantle everything they had built together, piece by piece. The physical beating Roman endured was brutal enough, but the psychological damage runs far deeper. When Seth Rollins and his newly assembled faction left Roman bloodied and broken in the center of the ring, they weren't just attacking his body, they were attacking his identity, his legacy, and his very sense of self. The man who once proclaimed himself as the tribal chief, who demanded acknowledgement from everyone around him, was left helpless and humiliated in front of the entire WWE Universe. What makes this downfall even more devastating is the timing. Roman was at the peak of his power, holding championship gold, commanding respect from both allies and enemies, and seemingly untouchable in his position at the top of the WWE hierarchy. The fall from such heights creates a psychological impact that goes beyond physical pain. It's the kind of trauma that breaks men completely, leaving them questioning everything they thought they knew about loyalty, power, and their place in the world. The aftermath has been equally brutal. Roman finds himself completely isolated, with no allies to turn to and enemies closing in from all sides. Brock Lesnar's return adds another layer of danger, as the Beast Incarnate has never forgotten their past conflicts and sees Roman's vulnerability as the perfect opportunity to strike. CM Punk lurks in the shadows with his own agenda, and Seth Rollins continues to build his empire on the ruins of Roman's former kingdom. This isn't just a low point in Roman's career, it's a complete reset that has left him more vulnerable than he's ever been, setting the stage for Moxley's unexpected intervention. To truly understand the weight of Moxley's message, we must revisit the sacred bond that once united him with Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins as the Shield. This wasn't just another wrestling faction thrown together for entertainment value. The Shield represented something revolutionary, something that changed the very fabric of WWE and created a brotherhood forged in violence, loyalty, and shared ambition. When these three men stepped through the crowd for the first time, they brought with them an energy and authenticity that the wrestling world hadn't seen in years. The Shield's bond was built on mutual respect and a shared vision of dominance. Jon Moxley, Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins weren't just teammates, they were brothers who bled together, fought together, and conquered together. Every victory belonged to all three, every defeat was shared equally, and every challenge was met with unified force. They revolutionized tag team wrestling, dominated main events, and created a legacy that still influences WWE storytelling today. The trust between them was absolute. They knew each other's moves, anticipated each other's needs, and functioned as a single, unstoppable unit. But even the strongest bonds can be tested by ambition, ego, and the corrupting influence of individual success. The cracks in the Shield began to show as each member started to develop their own identity and pursue their own goals. The tension was subtle at first, small disagreements about strategy, minor conflicts over spotlight time, and growing individual ambitions that sometimes conflicted with the group's collective goals. However, these small fissures would eventually become the fault lines that tore the faction apart. Moxley's departure from WWE represented more than just a career change. It was a complete rejection of the system that had shaped the Shield's rise and fall. While Roman and Seth continued to climb the WWE ladder, pursuing championships and main event status within the company structure, Moxley chose a radically different path. He walked away from guaranteed money, mainstream exposure, and the security of WWE's platform to pursue something more authentic and personally fulfilling. His decision to leave wasn't just about creative differences or contract disputes, it was about maintaining his integrity as a performer and staying true to his vision of what professional wrestling should be. Moxley felt constrained by WWE's corporate structure, frustrated by creative limitations, and determined to prove that he could succeed on his own terms. His departure sent shockwaves through the wrestling world and created a void in the Shield's legacy that could never be filled. The years that followed saw Moxley thrive in other promotions, building a reputation as one of the most authentic and compelling performers in the industry. He proved that his success wasn't dependent on WWE's machine or the Shield's collective power. Meanwhile, Roman and Seth continued their careers within WWE, achieving individual success but never quite recapturing the magic they had shared as a trio. The distance between the former Shield brothers grew, both geographically and emotionally, making Moxley's recent message all the more surprising and significant. The moment Jon Moxley appeared on that grainy, dimly lit screen, every wrestling fan knew they were witnessing something extraordinary. This wasn't a typical WWE promo filled with catchphrases and corporate-approved talking points. This was raw, unfiltered emotion delivered by a man who had nothing to gain and everything to lose by breaking his silence. The setting itself told a story, a forgotten locker room, harsh shadows, and an atmosphere that felt more like a confession than a wrestling segment. Moxley's physical appearance spoke volumes before he even uttered a word. His unkempt hair, hollow yet sharp eyes, and the weight of unspoken history etched across his face created an immediate sense of authenticity that cut through the usual wrestling theatrics. He wasn't performing, he was revealing. The stillness of his posture, the deliberate nature of his movements, and the careful modulation of his voice all contributed to a moment that felt genuinely spontaneous yet perfectly calculated. When Moxley spoke Roman's name, The single word carried the weight of a decade's worth of shared history, battles fought side by side, and the pain of brotherhood lost. His admission that he saw what happened wasn't just about witnessing Roman's physical beating. It was about recognizing the complete destruction of everything Roman had built and the vulnerability that followed. The honesty in Moxley's voice when he admitted that a part of me wanted to feel nothing revealed the internal conflict between his desire to move on and his inability to completely sever the emotional ties that bound him to his former Shield brother. The most powerful moment came when Moxley's voice trembled, not with weakness, but with barely contained rage. This wasn't the manufactured anger of a wrestling storyline. This was genuine fury at witnessing an injustice committed against someone who, despite their complicated history, still held a place in his heart. His declaration that what they did to you, that pissed me off, cut through years of silence and distance to reveal that some bonds transcend time, geography, and even personal animosity. But perhaps the most chilling and significant part of Moxley's message was his final statement: "No one gets to do that to a Shield brother. No one except me." These words carried multiple layers of meaning that wrestling fans are still trying to decode. On one level, it was a declaration of protective loyalty, a statement that despite their differences, Roman still held a special place that others couldn't violate. On another level, it was a subtle threat, a reminder that if anyone had the right to destroy Roman Reigns, it would be Moxley himself, not Seth Rollins or Paul Heyman. The abrupt ending, with the screen fading to black without music, catchphrases, or typical wrestling fanfare, left viewers in stunned silence. This wasn't designed to pop the crowd or generate immediate reactions. It was crafted to create lasting impact, to plant seeds of speculation that would grow over time. Moxley's message wasn't just words, it was a psychological weapon deployed at the perfect moment when Roman was most vulnerable and most in need of an ally, even one as unpredictable and potentially dangerous as his former Shield brother. Moxley's unexpected message has created a seismic shift in WWE's landscape that extends far beyond the immediate Roman Reigns storyline. The implications of his words ripple through every major storyline, every power structure, and every future booking decision the company will make. This isn't just about two former partners potentially reuniting. It's about the fundamental reshaping of WWE's entire narrative framework and the introduction of variables that could completely alter the company's trajectory. The most immediate impact involves Seth Rollins and his newly established faction. Seth has spent considerable time and effort building his empire on the ruins of Roman's bloodline, positioning himself as the new head of the table and the undisputed leader of WWE's main event scene. Moxley's message threatens to undermine everything Seth has accomplished by introducing an element he cannot control or predict. Unlike other WWE superstars who operate within the company's established hierarchy, Moxley exists outside the traditional power structure, making him immune to the usual political maneuvering and corporate influence that Seth has mastered. Paul Heyman's betrayal of Roman was calculated to be the final nail in the tribal chief's coffin, but Moxley's intervention could completely derail those plans. Heyman's entire strategy was based on Roman being isolated and vulnerable, with no allies to turn to in his darkest hour. The possibility of Moxley stepping in as an unpredictable ally, or even an unpredictable enemy, introduces chaos into Heyman's carefully orchestrated schemes. The master manipulator suddenly finds himself dealing with a variable that operates outside his sphere of influence. The broader WWE roster must now recalculate their positions and strategies based on this new development. Superstars who were positioning themselves to capitalize on Roman's downfall now face the possibility of dealing with a reunited Shield or, potentially even more dangerous, a war between former Shield brothers that could consume everything in its path. Brock Lesnar's return, CM Punk's brewing revenge storyline, and every other major angle in the company must now account for Moxley's presence and the unpredictable nature of his intentions. From a business perspective, Moxley's message represents a potential goldmine for WWE. The possibility of a Shield reunion, even a temporary or conflict-driven one, would generate massive interest from both longtime fans and casual viewers. The nostalgia factor combined with the genuine uncertainty about Moxley's true intentions creates the kind of must-see television that drives subscription numbers and pay-per-view buys. However, it also represents a significant risk, as Moxley's history of unpredictability means that WWE cannot fully control the narrative or guarantee specific outcomes. The creative possibilities are endless and terrifying in equal measure. Will Roman accept Moxley's twisted olive branch, leading to an alliance born of desperation rather than friendship? Will Moxley's message prove to be a psychological trap designed to push Roman even deeper into madness? Could we see a three-way war between the former Shield brothers that tears the company apart? Or might this be the beginning of something entirely new, a storyline that transcends traditional wrestling narratives and creates something genuinely unpredictable and emotionally resonant? Whatever happens next, one thing is certain: WWE will never be the same again. What we've witnessed isn't just another wrestling storyline, it's the resurrection of something sacred, something that was thought to be buried forever beneath years of betrayal, ambition, and distance. Jon Moxley's message to Roman Reigns has cracked open a door that many fans believe was sealed permanently, revealing that some bonds forged in blood and violence can never truly be broken, only transformed. The three key elements we've explored today paint a picture of a wrestling landscape in complete upheaval. Roman's devastating downfall has left him more vulnerable than ever before, stripped of his empire, his allies, and his identity as the tribal chief. The sacred bond of the Shield, despite being shattered by time and circumstance, still carries enough emotional weight to compel Moxley to break years of silence. And his haunting message, delivered with the kind of raw authenticity that cuts through all the corporate polish and scripted drama, has introduced an element of genuine unpredictability that WWE hasn't seen in years. But here's what makes this moment truly special: we genuinely don't know what happens next. In an era where wrestling storylines often feel predictable and corporate mandated, Moxley's message has created real uncertainty. Will Roman embrace this twisted olive branch from his former brother? Will Moxley prove to be a savior, a destroyer, or something far more complex? The possibilities are endless, and for the first time in years, it feels like anything could happen. This isn't about championships or corporate storylines anymore. This is about legacy, identity, and the kind of personal warfare that defines careers and changes lives. The Shield may be broken, but its fragments still cut deeper than any title storyline ever could. And now, with Moxley's words echoing through the halls of WWE, we're about to witness either the most unexpected reunion in wrestling history or the most personal war the industry has ever seen. The tribal chief is wounded, the architect is rising, and the lunatic has just opened the door to hell. What emerges from that door will reshape everything we think we know about loyalty, brotherhood, and the price of ambition in professional wrestling. The wrestling world is holding its breath, waiting to see how this story unfolds. What do you think Moxley's true intentions are? Is this a genuine offer of alliance, or is he setting Roman up for an even more devastating betrayal? Drop your predictions in the comments below. I read every single one, and I'm genuinely curious to hear your theories about where this Shield saga goes next. If you're as captivated by this story as I am, make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on, because when Shield blood gets spilled, the entire wrestling world bleeds with it. And trust me, what's coming next isn't just a match, it's a reckoning that will define an entire era of WWE storytelling.